Hey, welcome back. It's been a while. Here's part 3 of With Jack Baker. Sure. This is us talking about comedy. He's at my house. Is this going to be 3 or 4 parts? I don't know. We'll find out as I edit. So enjoy. My first, I'm going to cut the names out, but
Ooh, I'm excited to hear it.
I was doing stand-up in Chicago and I still live there. I did Tonic Room a lot. My buddy owned that place.
Okay.
And Tonic Room was great. That's where I first developed Edward Smathers, which was a motivational speaker.
Oh, the most annoying character that you ever had.
The voice was so bad.
Yeah.
It was, I got told numerous times, like, get off the stage or I'm going to hit you if you do that laugh again. But I
well
did.
deserved.
It was well deserved.
You need a Smathers laugh drop.
I'm going to lean back a little, like, where's the party? I was out, I got a toy poodle off of eBay. There was that voice.
That was a good voice. He
Oh.
died.
Twice. There was, oh God, there was the show that, I think you were on that show. It was me, Mike Moore, Tom Franklin. I swear it might have been you. Kat Rabarski was on that too.
Yeah. What, the Smathers funeral?
Smathers funeral show.
I was not on that show.
Okay. We did like a whole video memorial for him because he died.
Yeah.
I don't remember how. And it's just like it's old videos that we had of Edward Smathers, and then like myself, Mike Moore, and Tom Franklin and Andy Lee, who were all kind of a group together, would recreate those moments we filmed of Edward Smathers, and everybody would be sad. And we played the video at the front of the comedy show. And then immediately I went on stage next. Like I was the opening act. And someone told me I was very insensitive for doing jokes right after we watched a memorial video. And I explained to them that was me in a green vest sweater. And I had to like really, I'm like, there's no dip. We look the same. That is me up there. And now I'm like, that's the joke. That this guy has died, and now I'm doing. It was a weird.
Yeah.
I was trying too many weird
You're
artsy
too
things.
alternative. You just couldn't be contained by the normal comedy scene.
There was no alternative stuff out there, really, out in the
No.
suburbs.
No.
It was. I think it was primarily me. That's it.
Yeah, it really was.
But I go into Chicago, and there'd be more people doing that. Anyways, did Tonic Room. There's a name that here. Well, we'll just. I did a couple open mics a week when I was living in Logan Square, and I went to I can't remember the names of the places because they're far gone, but there was one guy that was just such an asshole to me, and I was so brand new at doing comedy and trying to figure things out. He's like, "You'll never get anywhere." I'm like, "Okay, cool."
That was really nice.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah. And then you come out to the suburbs, and it's a much more, even though we were assholes, it's a much more like loving family out here.
Yeah, there was more like watching people. It wasn't like everyone was trying to run off to the next open mic. So
Yeah.
It was a better, more supportive environment.
And then you got guys like Ricky March who were running Flabby at the Abbey or something like that.
Yeah.
But he would just invite mostly suburbs guys out.
Yep.
And that was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have an audience. It'd be Chicago comedians and suburbs comedians. But
Yeah, but it would be, you'd pretend like you got booked on an actual show.
you'd tell people you're doing a Chicago show.
Yeah. Oh, I'm performing in Chicago.
Like, yes, it's in Chicago, and it's not a Chicago show.
Technically, it's a Chicago show.
Not respected by any Chicago comedians.
Nope. That's okay.
That's fine. That's, but you're still doing it.
Yep. After all these years.
After all these-
Man, it's going to be 14 years
Jesus.
in May. That's a long time.
You
I've
were-
spent a lot of time on this.
But you're like on the road and stuff too, though. That's,
Yeah.
That's real. Again, you were in, what you said, Peoria
Yeah, yesterday.
yesterday.
It doesn't matter.
It
That's
do-
like
it does.
actually not like when you're on stage like the other day. And then it was like really like 6 months ago. By the time that this comes out, it will not be yesterday.
It will not be yesterday. I mean, we talked about doing this for weeks, and we were supposed to do it yesterday, but you were in Peoria.
Yeah, we were supposed to do it another time, and then Colleen was like, "Didn't you guys both forget that you were supposed to record?"
Probably.
Yeah, that's
Probably.
yeah.
But you're still on the road. Like, are you going? I don't keep up with where you're going
Uh,
because that's weird
yeah.
to me. Like because that's a weird barrier of like, my friend Jack Baker is doing comedy in Stalker.
Yeah.
Like, where's Jack going to be at next?
I'll be in. I mean, all of these things will have passed.
No,
by
but
the
I meant like
yeah, like
previously.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty busy, so I'm doing a lot of stuff. The summer's slowing down. It was a good first, 4 months of the year.
I think that's what people don't realize is like the summer kills comedy.
Yeah, no one wants to go inside
Yeah.
when you could be outside.
Or you could be doing outside bar shows, which are a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the outdoor show. I've gotten much more selective about the shows that I'll do now. I'm at a point where between like my regular job and comedy, I don't like financially, I don't ever have to take a show because it pays a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad because like all those like corporates and stuff are just not fun.
Oh,
So I'm like not
Yeah.
interested in doing any show. Like I don't have to do a show that I don't actually want to do. So it's
Yeah.
a much better place for me and it's much more fun for me to do comedy now.
you don't want to do more corporate gigs? Or it's like, I heard Ted in accounting has been fudging the numbers.
Sometimes those can be really fun. So I will do them occasionally. I don't ever want I don't want to be the only comedian on the show. So I will
No.
do them with my friend Jim Flanagan.
Oh, I love Jim Flanagan.
He's great and he's very funny. He's a great comedian for corporate shows.
Yeah.
And so like if he headlines and gets to bring an opening act, I will go do that. We did one actually weirdly last year in Peoria. That was super
you
fun.
love Peoria so
It
much.
just so like it was really fun. It was for a company I don't know, Big Sky Construction or something like that. And so you always like make a joke about the name. I think it was something about how like the construction company was named after the great outdoors to show Mother Nature who's in charge or something. And they all loved that. And like, so you have to write these like silly little jokes about like the name of the company. You like make fun of like the office. and how
Make fun
there's-
of the boss.
yeah, there's like they're having the company Christmas party, but there's one guy who has to sit outside to answer the phone. So you like make fun of that, and everyone's laughing. They're like, that's Jerry. And so it can be like this really fun thing, but the difference is like I will only do it if one, I'm like going with a friend, and two, they know that it's a comedy show.
Yeah.
Not a company event where they happen to have a comedian. They have to know that the event is a comedy show. And as long as that is, then I'll do it.
Are they giving you, like, the person running the events, are they giving you prompts like, you do have to talk about Jerry?
I've never gotten any prompts where I have to do material about somebody. I usually ask, like, if they have, like, kind of who's always stealing people's lunches, like that kind of stuff. Because, like, if you can just, like, do a joke and then casually mention something like that, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
Like,
Is Sneaky Pete going into the fridge again and sneaking out the sandwiches?
what happened? There's no staplers. Jerry. Like that kind of stuff, it'll get a huge reaction. And those kind of things like can be fun because it's
are.
like they let you like in on their inside jokes. And
Yeah.
so that can make it fun.
I'm not trying to like downplay or shit talk corporate gigs because I can
The people who
understand.
do it, I totally respect what they do. I could not do it. I don't want to do it, but it's a really hard job. And some people do it really, really, really well.
Oh, I'm sure Jim Flanagan kills at
Yeah.
those. He's just an overall
He's a very good comedian.
good comedian,
Yeah.
great guy.
Yeah.
Like checks in with me randomly. I haven't talked to him like or seen him in face to face
Yeah.
in 10 years probably.
That's crazy.
But what about, have you done conventions?
I have never done a convention. No.
That seems like hell as a person who used to work as a journalist in conventions.
Yeah, like I mean, I try and not do. I have no problem performing in like unconventional spaces, but I don't want to put myself in positions where I know the chances of success are really low, like something like a convention or something like, a corporate where they're having like a speaker and they're doing other events.
Like a
and-
corporate training day.
yeah, and then okay, now the last 30 minutes we got a comedian. Like that comedian's gonna bomb.
Yeah,
It's
because
gonna
those
be
people want to
terrible.
be out of there.
Yeah,
You got people that are on their feet all day conventions or like corporate training weekend.
people will do weddings. People do stand up
no.
at weddings. I would never do that.
Why?
I don't know.
Because the point where you laugh at a wedding to me is when the best man who is already so drunk
Yeah.
gets up and tries to read an emotional speech but can't let go of his masculinity. And it's just awkward. I remember the time Jack and I Like there's the moment of
Yeah.
emotion coming out.
And so I can't listen to wedding toasts.
I love them.
As someone who's like who talks in front of people all the time,
Yeah.
it physically hurts me to listen to just how bad people are at doing it. Like how badly they're written, how there's no structure to it, there's no arc to it. It's just like random like anecdotes thrown together, and it's like, did you edit this at all? Did you like think about how this was going to be perceived by other people? It irritates me so much. But that being said, I am amazing at giving wedding toasts.
I should have had you at my wedding, but my wedding was 30 people, and we did it in an Italian restaurant
Yeah.
because neither of us wanted the whole thing, because like we're not, and then it's no offense to
You're
anybody
not
else
like
that wants
wedding
it.
people.
We're not wedding people, like we're not religious,
Yeah.
so that kind of takes out the church equation. Even though I think churches are beautiful,
Yeah.
many are, but we just wanted to have
Architecturally.
architecturally. No, like yeah, I guess 'cause-
Spiritually. Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe in any of that really, but like I understand why people believe in all that stuff.
I mean, when you got buildings that look like that, how could you not?
I mean, they're beautiful. Like
Like a cathedral's cool.
they are, and like
Yeah.
the art inside is great. Like how aesthetically pleasing it
Yeah.
all is, except for the where you sit. That's the pews have always bugged me.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable.
No, but it's not supposed to be.
But if the
You couldn't sit in chairs like these.
no, you couldn't. But like if the idea is like you're worshiping a deity that like brings you hope and brings you happiness, and you're repenting the things that you don't. I'm almost getting to Catholicism at this point. But you're repenting the things that you've done wrong and like trying to better yourself as a human. Wouldn't you want to sit in something a little bit more comfortable to make you happy?
But you don't deserve that comfort.
Again, that's Catholicism. I
Yeah.
mean, like I was Episcopalian. Or I wasn't Episcopalian, but I went to an Episcopalian
Lutheran
church.
and Methodist.
Okay. Didn't you have to like do a whole thing for your wedding where like
Yeah. We got married in a church. My wife is religious. And
but you had to do a whole thing.
we had to do premarital counseling to get married in this church.
What did that do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's I mean you have to go for like 4 weeks, and you like work through a book with the pastor, and he just like asks you questions to see like to help you get prepared for a good marriage. And just Colleen and I would sit there for like 10 minutes before we walked in and we'd be like, how have people, like, you would go through the book and it's like, what do you guys think about kids? Do you want kids? And it's like, how have people reached this point without ever having this
Yeah.
conversation before?
That's almost like old school relationship thinking.
Yeah. I mean, it was clearly written for people who were like 18, like 40 years
Yeah.
ago, who were like, I want to get married so we can have sex. Or like Mormons today.
I mean, like our generation's just very much like, is this relationship going to work out?
Yeah, but it's like those kind of conversations to like see if you're compatible, and it's
Yeah.
like, if this is necessary for you, you shouldn't be getting married.
Yeah. Is there any chapter on communication?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a whole thing on like the love languages, which is all bullshit, by the way.
What's a love language?
It's like how you communicate your love, and so like some people are supposed to be like more prone to like physical touch, or or like generosity, like you do things for the other
Okay,
person, or
I
you like
understand
buy
that.
things for them, and so it's just all bullshit. It's not real. It's not based in like actual
Science.
like research, right? It's like the TED Talk version of science, where someone just kind of says it, and everyone's like, "Oh, that sounds nice."
It sounds more like TEDx.
We did a big TED Talk episode.
Yeah, we differentiated between
And
TED
I hated
Talk
them.
and TEDx.
I remember being very anti TED Talk in the episode.
I was pro, but only through science stuff that had been like
I think
peer-reviewed.
time has proven me right in the sense
It
that
has.
they less and less emphasis on the research and more on the entertainment side.
I'm sure TED Talks still exist, but no one's infatuated with them
No,
anymore.
they were though for
That
a
was
really
the
long
thing.
time. It was huge.
But now you know Colleen's love language.
Yeah, which is, we figured it out. Now we joke that it's sending each other videos of dogs on Instagram.
I mean, that's
That's just what we do during the day. Like,
wonderful.
we don't talk about our day during the day anymore. We don't like text each other throughout the day. I'll just like look on Instagram. We have like 4 messages, and there's like, oh, here's a puppy who rolled around in some mud, and oh, here's one in Alaska that's hanging out with a polar bear. How'd
That
they
sounds
become
great.
friends? Like that stuff.
let's write a children's
My
book together.
favorite, my favorite. No, I did write a children's book.
What, really?
I did. Yeah. It's
Okay.
not. It's never been published. It had some interest from publishers, but children's book publishing is maybe the scammiest industry I have ever even
It's the
just
hardest
like
to get
dipped
into.
my toe into. It is everything exists to make money off of the people who want to write children's books.
Yes.
So I have no interest in ever getting it published, but it might be just about the right age for your
My son.
yeah.
Did you have an artist work on that, or?
It's just
the
it's a
written
chapter book.
Oh, okay. So like the young readers.
Yeah,
section.
so it's I mean it's technically a chapter book, so it's like second to 4th grade depending on reading level.
My son's on. We did some 5-letter words last week, and I was like really, really proud.
It might be the one you could maybe like read to him.
Yeah.
At this point, or maybe in a year or two, maybe he'll be getting there. But it's it's about the World Series of pancakes.
Okay, you've got me.
I know that's all
gripped.
it takes to interest kids. Once you say that, they're like, I'm in. And then you find out that it's all animal characters, and you're like, okay, now we're really on to
We're
something.
cooking.
It's called King Benalcazar and the World Series of Pancakes. It's about 2 polar bear brothers who have dreamed their whole lives of becoming pancake world champions. So it's the story of them
I
attempting
will
to
straight
win
up-
the World Series of Pancakes.
I will straight up, and I'm not joking. I will put you in touch with like children's book PR people, because that's like I have all the. I'm not patting myself on the back, but like
Yeah.
years in journalism, like
Oh yeah,
I have really good PR connections. So I'll hook you up.
thank you. I think it's a great idea. I know kids have read it. Like I've had kids and they all love it.
Yeah,
But it's tough to sell children's books right now.
yeah.
And especially with like chapter books, they only want to buy a whole series.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had 2 people who weren't interested in they liked the idea of the first one. And then so my idea for like a sequel and a prequel did not care.
Didn't land.
Yeah.
Nicole Valdez, if you're listening, talk to Jack Baker. Get his World Series of pancakes.
I think it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I'm really proud of it. I think it's really good. I think kids really like it.
I didn't know you did that. That's really awesome.
I wrote it. Yeah, it was like I'd written it. It was something I originally like made up. I mean, it was like stuff. These were like my stuffed animals when I was a kid.
Okay.
And so this is like a story that I made up about them, like my 2 polar bears. And then I kind of eventually wrote it like the first version was a Christmas gift for my mom.
Okay.
And then during like COVID, there was no comedy anymore. So I like
Yeah.
really put my time into like polishing this draft up. And so when you do like children's book writing, anytime you're at like a pitch event, it's the first page and that's all you
Yes.
show off. It's the first page. And then when you like submit to things, it's the first 10 pages. And so I have rewritten like the first page for this book thousands of times. I think the first page is like perfect. And then you like rewrite the first 10 pages over and over and over again to try and like really focus on that. And I think the first 10 pages are great. And then it's like the rest of it is all really good, but no one ever really like wanted to buy it because I'm not a name in children's book writing.
Yeah.
But like stand-up comedy, they don't care.
It's hard to.
It's
get
really
it.
hard to get into, and you go to, you know, these events like with the children's book industry things, and you go and you like sign up and you pay $85 for this event to go learn about it. And then they've got an agent on there and he's talking about how they get 50 submissions a week and they sign 2 or 3 people a year, and how he hadn't sold a book yet. And I was like, then why are you talking here? Shouldn't you have paid to learn about how this industry works like we did?
No, he's the guest speaker.
So it was just that, like, I'm sitting here and looking at all of the other names on like the Zoom thing that was at this,
Yeah.
and I'm like, As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I have a great book, but this is never like I can't put all of my time into a second artistic pursuit that doesn't lead to a lot of money. I have to focus on one, and so that's stand up.
Just Jack, let's work on these books together.
Yeah, if we could self-publish, I talked about it with Joe Motizzi doing
Yeah.
illustrations for it,
That would be
but
fantastic.
it just didn't.
I mean, if
come
Ed
together.
Hansen can publish his own book with forward by me for some reason,
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure I could get it self-published, and that
Jordan
would-
did that too.
yeah, but I don't know. It's
Yeah.
I have it, so it's my manuscript is there. I think it's great. I think it's ready. But just when I'm ever gonna decide to do something with it, I don't know.
I do want to read it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I started working on a novel.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was doing a comic book anthology, a graphic novel with an artist like 10 years ago. We were working on, like, when I was actually writing comics for a little bit and like selling comics as
Yeah.
a writer. We had this giant sci-fi anthology ready. Like, I had written like 15 stories for it with the artist.
Yeah.
Then the artist left me to do a story I do not care for with another writer. And do you remember when I did Gorgator?
Sort of. I was never big into the comic book
Okay.
stuff, so I'd be like, yeah, that's really cool, but it just all flew over my head.
It was during like the sci-fi, like, put two animals together and make a schlocky movie.
Okay.
So this was a gorilla and an alligator attacking an Antarctica base,
Nice.
and it was very much like satire of sci-fi
Yeah.
movie. And we sold copies, and it was really cool. And so the next thing we're doing was like a very serious space anthology, and it just died when he left.
yeah.
And one of the stories I really, really, really liked. I asked him, like, do you mind if I just take this story and make it into like a novel? It has nothing. I'll take
Yeah.
out everything that has to do with everything else. And so I started writing it, and I got through, I think, like 10 pages, and the prologue is just this info dump of crap that, and I'm like, no one wants to read this
Nope.
shit. And then I talked to my buddy Van Jensen, who was on the show a few weeks ago, or I'm sorry, probably 10 episodes ago at this point. His book Godfall just sold to Imagine Entertainment as a movie, and Ron
that's
Howard's
awesome.
directing it.
That's amazing.
So he's like, I'll help you out. And so I've rewritten the first 10 pages like
Yeah.
30 times. I'm trying to find the voice. I'm trying to find out, like,
It's so tough to do, and like you talking about the expedition down with the children's book, the whole
Yeah.
thing is like 12,000 words,
yeah,
and so in the first page you have to like introduce the world, and
Yep.
because it's not like mine is not the real world, it's this weird version of the world
yeah,
with the led by polar bears who live in a tropical environment, and they make pancakes for all. He's the king, but he makes pancakes for all the kids in the town every Thursday,
That's
and
a
they
good
come
king.
to the palace for pancakes. And
He's
so
a-
you
he's
have
a for the people king.
no, for sure, he's a good king, yeah. And his brother's the prime minister. It makes no sense, but it's just like wacky enough to like keep kids entertained and make
Yeah.
it so that that like adults aren't questioning the politics like of this world. He's like a king, but all he wants to do is be the World Series of Pancake champion.
Mine is not that serious.
You have to
You're
like,
funny.
but you have to set this whole thing up, and when you're pitching, you have to do all of that in one page.
Yeah.
And make it fun and entertaining so that children can understand. It's just like so hard to do, but I feel like I got to that point over time, and so
I'm rewriting again.
it's
'Cause-
so much rewriting. I've rewritten that page thousands of times.
Yeah. Like, mine was like the first 3 pages were a prologue about how the future has changed and what happened. And I'm just kind of like, screw this. I'm just going to start like in the middle of the story and have a diary of the main character jump between first person and third person. Because I
nice.
can't write it in third person.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense if you're following a character for me.
Yeah.
And so it's like I got to jump between perspectives, but people in novels hate that. And I'm like, well, the Neverending Story did that. And that book's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know the movie exists, but like the book by Michael Ende is fantastic, and it jumps between perspectives and it works flawlessly.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
the
don't
thing, too. Like, I don't read children's books.
I read a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
you do. I don't read children's book. I don't know what's popular. I guess that there's not No one wants to buy things from animal characters anymore. They want it to be very much people. And it's also very much, I think the industry is just adults trying to pat themselves on the back for how smart they are
Yeah,
with what they're thinking that children would like. And so like a silly story about polar bears making pancakes is not.
I
what
disagree.
It's not.
Well, as a novel or a young reader,
I think kids love it. They're
Yeah.
like World Series of Pancakes. They're in from there. I've given it to like parents that I know to read, and every time their kids have made them make pancakes. They've enjoyed the book so much. And so like I know that kids like it, but adults that run the children's book publishing industry want children's books to be more than that.
Well, it's because you got into like the skeevy part, and every industry has this. The skeevy, like, pay me $500 to listen to me yell at you about how things should be done.
Yeah.
But that's not how things are done.
Sort of.
I mean, it's like sort of. But that's more like a networking event than anything else. It's not really telling you how to do things.
So, I mean, it is like I've seen the stuff, that wins the awards and the stuff that gets published, and that's not what I write. So just wait for things. I feel like it's cyclical. So things will probably change and go to a sillier, more whimsical place as the world gets more terrible.
I mean,
and they'll want less realistic looks at the world.
Yeah.
And that is when I will be ready to get in.
Just dive right in. Because
Exactly.
20 years ago, it was all magic.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, everything had to be magical.
Right.
And now it's more about like kids in school and
Yeah,
wacky adventures.
Right. And it's like with all like the social, emotional health and all that kind of stuff and like representation and all that stuff's good, but it's not.
I mean, the culture has changed and we have to put emphasis on that because that's how it's changed for teenagers now.
Yeah.
Inclusivity.
And the question is like, is that what children's in the books want in their books, or is that what adults want children's books to be?
I think the latter.
I think so too. But if that's what they want books to be, then that's what they're going to buy and what they're going to publish.
Yeah.
So.
I had to read a book to my son that was given to us by the school chapter book.
Yeah.
I think it was called like Ranger in Time. It was about a real dog, a golden retriever that travels in time from present day to Oregon Trail days.
Okay.
And at first I was like, this could be pretty good, like a dog traveling through time. And I was hoping for some like wackiness there, like the dog can speak, anthropomorphic, something like that.
Yeah.
It was just a dog going back in time to the Oregon Trail, and it was super sad. The writing was, I was making editor notes as an editor and journalist in there of like what's wrong, but it was just the driest thing I ever had to read, and my son was falling asleep during it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are kids reading this?
And that's the thing. Like, you can do so many more fun things with kids writing than you can do, like alliterations, and you can do wacky onomatopoeias, and you could do all kinds of stuff that just like makes it fun and brings like life to it that you can't do in adults writing. And that's why I really liked it. And you could get really silly and weird with it.
You want to create a connection with the kids in reading that's positive so they don't hate it down the line.
Yeah.
Like I had to read, like I remember like in not junior high, maybe even like 5th grade, like Catcher in the Rye or Tom Sawyer, and that stuff bored the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And so I stopped reading.
Right. So I just like when I started writing, I was like, I don't read children's books. I don't know what kids like. I just wrote the kind of thing that I think I would have wanted to read when I was a kid.
Yeah. That's how that's the lens you should look through.
Yeah.
What did you like as a kid? Do that now, as long as it's not problematic through today's cultural lens.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
But you need to have who's the cool kid in high school in this book? Does everybody like him, or is he a big meanie?
See, that was the idea for the prequel, right? So it's the sequel is because it's King Benalcazar and his brother is the prime minister is Archibald, right? And the sequel was going to be that Archibald, the villains in the first book, they steal his prime minister hat, which is like a crown, but for the prime minister. Because he was sad because he didn't have a crown and wasn't the whole king. So Benalcazar made him a prime minister hat, and it gets stolen. And it's a heist book about them going to steal the crown back.
Why are people turning this down?
There's my favorite character. Like it has like so the first one is kind of like a sports thing,
Yeah.
and so it's like that's kind of the lens of like the first book is a very like sports kind of like action story, and the second one is a heist thing. That would be the idea for.
But why?
I don't know.
The writer side of me, who again, I'm gonna pat myself on the back, writing professionally for 14 years, like getting paid, not in novels, more in journalism and editorial, but like what you're telling me, like my kid would love that.
There's my favorite character, and again, this is just all based on mine and my sister's stuffed animals from when we were a kid. It's their friend is a grizzly bear named Bowtie Bob, and he's a traveling bow tie salesman. And no one knows how he makes money doing this, but he just talks in wacky 20s slang about bow ties.
What?
And then the reason I brought this up, and then the prequel, right, was
the heist.
Yeah, right. That's the sequel.
Oh, that's the sequel. Sorry.
And then it would go back to the prequel, which is Prince Benalcazar goes to summer camp. So this is him and Archibald and they're kind of the jerks in camp. Like they were the popular ones, and they're trying to win the camp championship. It's like the summer camp, and their bunk is like competing against the other bunks, and they lose, right? And this is like when he learns the lesson about like being nice, and like the whole thing is this is when the pancakes starts, because in losing, they decide that it's more important for them to just like be nice to the other kids because they have so much that they then start like making pancakes for everyone else.
I feel very frustrated for you because this seems like a good idea.
I think kids would like it, and I think that they would get it and like that it jumps around and the story changes each time. I think part of the problem with it is that in looking at the series, they were too busy. They were too focused on the plot and not looking at what the story is actually about, which is these two wacky characters and this whole like world that I made up, and not these guys just wanting to become pancake world champions. Like the story, I think, goes much beyond that. But I think the editors who looked at it were thinking too narrowly. So,
I mean, I'm trying to look at it through an editor's point of view and just going through submissions and having to have quick eyes on it. But it seems unique enough. And I'm not in that publishing world.
yeah.
I mean, I've worked as like a editor on indie comics and stuff.
Well, I
briefly.
mean, I will share it with you. I would love to actually have you read it and let me know what you think.
A part of this podcast, which I haven't mentioned that yet. If you're on the show and do something, I'll support you.
Oh, that's very
so
nice.
I had a baker on one week and I bought his cookies.
Oh, nice.
Like, so the writer that I had on last week, Van Jensen, I've moved it around, but his book's right there.
Oh, very cool.
So it's like, I've already watched your comedy special twice.
Ooh, twice.
Yeah, I mean, like I know all the jokes because it's a lot of the jokes that you were doing when you were first starting out.
Just better versions told in a much more confident.
They're clean versions, and you're confident. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're not clean in the sense of like not cursing or anything.
No, I meant clean as in like
they're polished.
Polished.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I spent so much time just with cutting out unnecessary stuff. You don't realize, like, I feel like you were talking about, you listening to like me talk about the book from your perspective as like an editor. I do that watching comedy specials. I'm like, they should have cut that out. They should have cut that out. You should have tightened that up.
Yeah.
I think about that stuff all the time.
I was watching, I already seen it before, but Nick Kroll's special on Netflix, and I'm like, same thing, like, you're losing the audience there. Dave Attell's I was just watching before you came over, because I'm like, oh, he had a new one that came out. And half of it, I was like, we don't need this.
Yeah, it's you see it especially with like the Netflix stuff is always done in a much more professional way, and it's very like competently filmed. So there's not going to be like the comedian like trailing off and that kind of thing. But like with the YouTube stuff and people putting things out themselves, it's like, no, you need to watch what you look like on stage and not think about what it's like for you to perform, but what is it like for the audience to watch you and the experience of that, because you're not telling jokes on stage when you are filming a stand-up special. You are creating a movie about your stand-up material for people to watch that is not at the show.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people necessarily like think about that. And you have to think about how like you're not just like filming it.
Yeah.
You're like, you want someone, the director, who is going to add to it and heighten the material and make the experience better, and not just someone like a videographer to capture what happened. You want someone to actually like, they're creating their own piece of art about your piece of art.
I mean, that's the big, when we talk about like the content era
Yeah.
of YouTube and everything. That's one thing I learned really quickly is I'm not writing for myself. This show is for myself. I don't give a shit if anybody listens. This is my creativity.
Well, at this point, the only person still listening is Matt Drufke.
Matt Drufke is still listening. He'll be on.
We love you, Matt.
The week after. He's coming over Friday to record. And this is also 2 episodes because we've been going for 2 hours already. But when I write, my voice is in that writing. Like when you do comedy, your voice is in that. But what I'm knowing who my audience is. So if I'm writing like, what's something I did recently, or something I did that by the time this comes out that I'm working on now for Star Wars Day is the 13 sassiest droids in the Star Wars universe.
That's right.
I'm writing that because someone's going to be on the toilet or like waiting somewhere and going to read it, and I'm using my voice, but I'm writing it for them. I'm not writing it for me. I mean, I pitched it for me, but I'm writing it in a way that's going to be quick, straight to the point, really, really polished, and that's because I have other editors looking at it saying, Matt, you're rambling on about Chopper from Rebels too much. I'm like, well, he's the best. Spoiler alert, he's the sassiest one on my list.
Ooh.
But
Inside info.
But that's what, to me, that's what separates good creators from bad creators. Knowing that you're creating content for someone else in your voice, as in creating content for yourself. A lot of YouTube is creating content for themselves, and that's why it never takes off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you at least, I don't necessarily think about it creating content for other people. I think it's creating content where like you have to accept that all of the perspective that you bring into it is lost. And so you're creating a content that has to be perceived and understood by other people, but I don't necessarily think about it like that I'm creating it for them. I'm still creating the thing that I think is the best regardless of what the audience thinks. But I think a lot about trying to make sure that my comedy and stuff is interpreted in the way that I want it to be interpreted. Like I had a joke that I did in the special, but I had to cut part of the joke out because it got an applause break, but the wrong kind of applause break.
Like in the middle of the setup, not at the punchline.
No, people were agreeing with a point that I wasn't trying to make. It was the joke about how like, because I'm allergic to milk. I've been allergic to milk since I was a kid. And now there's like a whole thing how like with like allergies and like medical stuff, there's so much more awareness about it, but there's like an expectation that we have to like accommodate people's food preferences. And so I had a joke about how like I don't care like if you're vegan, like I'm not gonna do shit to help you out, because when I was a kid no one did anything for me, and so for you then to ask me, and as an adult to like for me to look out for you because you've made a choice feels like unfair. Because I was 7 years old having to bring my own food to your birthday party. But when I would make this point about how I hate like vegan people, the people were agreeing with hating vegan people and not coming at it from the perspective of like, no, I think I'm correct to hate them, but you all should still do what you can to help because it's like being a good person, but I'm not going to do that because I'm still bitter about like...
Because you've gone your whole life pretty much.
Right. And no one, and it was so much different. When I was a kid, no one cared. Yeah. And so now you asking me to do this as an adult is kind of ridiculous.
When it's a preference, it's not a...
Right. And so, but the point just got lost on the audience.
So when you say hate vegans, it's...
They were clapping because they were like, yeah, we should fuck those people. But it's like, no,
you're punching down at that point.
Right. And that's not the point that I wanted to make. So even though every time I did the line, it got a huge applause break, I cut it from the special. And I'm not going to lie, I still do the line when I'm in like Peoria or like Rockford or a town like that. I will do it because it's like, I know sometimes you just have to give the people slop.
I mean, when you're going to certain towns, like I remember when I was doing comedy a bit more, when I go to Rockford, or when I would go far west Illinois or central Illinois, you have to change your act.
Sometimes.
Sometimes when I went to Rockford, I was never a dirty comedian. I was
Yeah.
mid level. But when I went to Rockford, I was the cleanest comedian they've ever seen. And it's like, well, I do have a joke about like filleting a man that I won a staring contest with, which
Would kill in Rockford.
it killed out here.
Yeah.
Rockford didn't like it.
Really?
One bit.
I find them to much dirtier comedy.
That was the dirtiest joke I had.
Yeah. The thing for me is I don't ever try and change my material. Like I want to do the same material for every audience regardless. But sometimes I have to like I do a joke about Survivor, the show. How they have a scene where they have a sponsorship meal provided by Applebee's, and how funny it is to show people that are like literally starving how excited they are about how
That's right, I
Applebee's,
remember that.
and it's not making like the point that they think it's supposed to be making. And the joke is much funnier than that, but I'm not gonna do the bit. Go watch the special.
Watch the special.
But like I have to remember when I'm in like these small towns that I can't do that joke because they like Applebee's there, and they're not
Yeah.
going to get like they come from a different world than I do.
Yeah.
And so I just have to like try and remember how they experience things, because I don't want to like insult them and say like that the restaurant that they go to is bad and that
Yeah.
they should feel bad for eating it.
When I mentioned the Rockford story about the staring contest joke, when I say that like they would have loved it, they hated it because I was in like a real small towny trashy bar that was homophobic. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm talking about like I have a staring contest with a guy and I win and then have to fillet a gentleman, which I think is a very funny joke
Yeah.
still now. They didn't like it because it was like, oh, you're doing that with a guy. I was like, no, that's like,
That's the
it's not because it's it's gay or whatever. It's because I won a contest in my whatever.
yeah.
And maybe that joke does feel kind of homophobic through the lens.
Yeah, look at you with this 2024 perspective.
I mean, we all did it. We all did jokes that do not last. And you have to say to yourself, like, well, it was the times and it's wrong now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about the material that I've done on stage.
I don't think you've ever done anything that was.
I mean, there's definitely like I've dipped my toes in the water, and there was one joke where I definitely used a slur at one point, and I think it made sense. I mean, in the joke, I feel like it was somewhat. You could make an argument that it was justified to use it because it's like a character that's saying it, and the point is
Yeah.
how dumb the person is. But again, it's like if they're not, they're going to respond sometimes to just you saying that word, and so it's like if they're not going to understand the point that you're making, then you're not communicating effectively, and it's
Yeah.
better to just not do it. And so I mean, I stopped doing it a long time ago, and I think I don't know, I just don't do that joke at all anymore.
Yeah. I think I played, when I was doing myself as a comedian, I played with sexuality a lot. I mean, I think everybody's bisexual, just to what degree,
Yeah.
you know? Like I lean very much towards heterosexuality, but like I tried to present that on stage, and I think it went over people's heads.
Yeah.
Or they just weren't accepting of that idea at that time, that like technically everybody's like it's a spectrum. Everything's a spectrum.
It just depends on the room sometimes,
Yeah.
too. Because, I mean, I did one show in Highland Park, and it
Oh,
was
yeah.
one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It was a female comedian. She's very funny. She said that she's bisexual and got an applause break just for being bisexual. I was like, oh, we are not in Wheaton anymore.
What's your favorite non-comedy room you did comedy in?
Ooh.
I hope it's one that we did together, because there's a couple I can think of that we did together.
Non-comedy room. You mean not like a comedy club, just like a place that started to do comedy?
And not even like an open mic, but it was like you did a showcase at a place that would never have comedy.
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, do you have one in mind that you're
Yes.
thinking of?
Yeah, I got two, but there's one more than another one.
Yeah, I don't know. What were you thinking of?
Did you do the cosmetology school with me on their graduation day?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if we did it together. I did that venue once. I
It-
don't know if we were on the show together.
It was
or
like
not. It was Kat Lebarski's show.
Kat
Yeah.
ran it. Yeah, I think we were on that one as well, but no one was drinking, which is always like kind of a sign for like I don't know if this is going to go that great.
Yeah.
But they had just graduated. We were in like where they practice doing cosmetology.
Yeah, people were like sitting in the chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was one of my favorite audiences because like you get laughs from that crowd and you're like, oh, these are genuine laughs.
Yeah.
They're not I've been drinking laughs. Everyone was so nice and like I've never felt more welcomed at a show. It was like it was just such a nice show. And I walked into that thinking like this is gonna suck.
Yeah. You never know with those kind of things. I mean, that's like the whole don't tell comedy thing where they just do shows in non-comedy venues.
Yeah. I had that also for I mean you've done charity shows. Like
Yeah.
for like I did one for sick kids out in Chicago where with a very specific disease and like was a fundraiser and
Jack Baker's disease.
Jack Baker's disease, now available on YouTube. But like I was super pumped because I'm like we get to do like charity, like we're providing entertainment for like parents of these children. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be really really cool. Right before my set, I was in the middle somewhere as I typically was. They brought out the children with like the affliction, and I was like, how do I come back from that? Like
You don't.
You don't.
I did one for dogs, like a dog rescue thing one time, and they showed a video of dogs
Yeah.
right before, and then they're like, and now let's make some noise for your host, Jack Baker.
Oh no, you put the video at the end, not up front.
Just like these people. It's ridiculous.
I did one for the Epilepsy Foundation at the Abbey. Not
Yeah.
Flabby at the Abbey, the real Abbey. Like the venue next door. And I was still kind of like, I guess you could say closeted about having epilepsy at this
Yeah.
time. But the person that ran the Epilepsy Foundation knew I was epileptic. And I went up there and I did my set. And again, my set is not offensive.
Yeah.
And I got down and the woman's like, you'll never do a show with the Epilepsy Foundation again. That is the most offensive thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, I talked about the movie Labyrinth and like checking out David Bowie's package. Like that was the most offensive thing I think I said. It was about checking out David Bowie's package. And there was a line in there that Jack said, which we cut out, which I think is a little offensive by today's culture. Again, talking about sexuality in most of my bits.
Yeah, but like once you're talking about David Bowie, I mean, everyone's a little bi for Bowie.
Everybody. It's everyone's bi for Bowie is the name of the episode.
As it should be.
It should be. But like you do these that's the thing. Like you talk about doing corporate gigs and liking corporate gigs. Open mics are a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Comedy venues typically are good.
For the most part, yeah. There is a hierarchy, and some are much better than others.
Yes. But then like the charity shows are the wild card.
Yeah. You never know.
If they're going to be bringing out the thing you're doing a charity for, it's not going to be good if that's at the opening.
No.
It's going to be sad the rest of the night.
Yep.
If there's drinking, it's going to be super sad.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's fun, but nah, it's not worth doing.
It's comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, plug some things.
You
We'll
should,
leave it at the sad note.
please, if you enjoyed all of this nonsense, please check out
two episodes.
my comedy special, Jack Baker's Disease, streaming on YouTube now. And then follow me on social media at Team Jack Baker on all of the social medias.
All of them.
Yeah.
On, what's the Trump one?
Truth Social?
Yeah, you're on there too, right?
No. I'm on Twitter, but I don't tweet.
No one checks Twitter
Yeah, I
anymore.
don't do it. I have it because I still like to follow Bears stuff.
Yeah.
It's the best way. It doesn't even work for that anymore, but I still try and follow like the sports stuff there.
I'm still waiting for everybody to come over to Threads.
Yeah.
That's
I don't think it's going to happen.
a lot of people came over recently to Threads.
They started and it did great at the beginning, but it hasn't.
I mean more recently.
Yeah.
Because Twitter got real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Thanks, Jack, for coming on.
Thank you for
two
having me.
episodes. And make sure to check out the Patreon-only episode, which we're going to record in 30 seconds.
Perfect.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, as always, make sure to check out Jack Baker's stuff that he already talked about. This is technically the end of the Jack Baker 3-part series. next week will be, I'm just going to release it for everybody, breakfast lasagna, which is a Patreon only thing, but there's no video component to these episodes. So I'm just going to put it out on Apple Podcasts because it's been pod fade for a while since my kid is home from school for the summer. So it's kind of hard to do episodes. So we'll see you next week with some breakfast lasagna with Jack Baker. Bye.